Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie and today I'm going to be giving you my December wrap up. Now, December was a really hard reading month for me. I have been going in and out of a reading slump for like 2 years, but it really hit me kind of hard the last 2 months. And I really struggled in the month of December because I couldn't physically pick up a book and read. I don't know what was wrong with me. I'm coming out of it, and I'm really glad about that. But it's just I would pick up a book, I could only read maybe 50 pages, and then I just couldn't do any more. And so I had a lot of reading plans for myself. I had high hopes of reading all of these books before the end of the year, and it didn't happen because I couldn't read any physical books. But I did manage to listen to 7 audiobooks, and I did end up finishing 1 physical book the last day of December. The first book that I listened to was Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. I went to visit my best friend in Missouri, and it's like a 9-hour drive for me to go visit her, and so I had the audiobook playing when I was driving, and I really loved this book. It took a short while for it to grow on me because it is kind of repetitive, because basically this girl is in an accident and she dies. That's not a spoiler. In the beginning of the book, there's the accident and she's dead, but then she wakes up the next day and has to relive that same day over and over and over again. And basically it's about her trying to figure out what she's supposed to change. She knows that she's reliving that day to change something for the better, and so basically it's just her trying to figure out what that is so that she can stop experiencing the same day over and over again. And so as you can kind of guess, it's pretty repetitive, but at the same time I felt like Lauren Oliver did a really good job making every day new, and every day something different happens, whether it was the little details of the day or some of the days were completely different. And so I really appreciated that it wasn't the same thing over and over again. This story really captured me. This by no means is a super well written, it's by no means a written masterpiece, but I loved it so much. And I think it's because the take on life and just the themes throughout this book really meant a lot to me. And there definitely is a lot of bullying in this book. Basically the main character belongs to the mean girl clique at school, and they are horrible to a lot of people. And this book really is a deeper look into how hurting people hurt others. And this book really did. It captured my heart, and like I said, it's not a written masterpiece, but I loved it so much. The next book I listened to was The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. This is a modern world fairy story. Basically, it's urban fantasy. So these people are everyday, normal people. They live in the United States. There's, modern technology. It's modern day world. But there's also fairies, and people know about the fairies that live in the forest, particularly the town where the main character lives. Everyone travels to that town to experience some of the fairies. Supernatural junkies travel to this town to hopefully catch a glimpse of one of these fairies. And the main fairy attraction of this town is there's a horned fae prince who is asleep in a glass coffin in the middle of the woods, and no one has been able to break the glass. The fairy has been sleeping there for a century. It's never woken up, and then one day they wake up and the fairy prince is gone. He's no longer in his coffin. The coffin is smashed. No one knows what happened. And the main character of the story and her family gets pulled into the mystery of what happened and what does this mean now that this fairy prince has escaped. I thought this book was just okay. It wasn't very good in my opinion. I thought the world building was severely lacking. I think Holly Black did huge elaborate world building in her head, but she didn't translate that to readers. It's almost like she just kept all of the world building for herself, and like she knows what this means, she knows what all of this is, but she doesn't actually tell readers. And so there's really a disconnect. Also, like the plot was just okay. It wasn't anything special. The characters weren't anything special. It was just an okay story. The next book I listened to was Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard, which is book 2 to the Red Queen series. This is a dystopian fantasy series where there are silvers and there are reds. The silvers are the elite group of society. They have superhuman abilities and they bleed silver. The reds are the lower class of society and they don't have any of these superhuman abilities and they bleed red. They're just regular humans. And the main character in the first book is a red and she is thrust into the silver political world. And there's also rebellion and all different kinds of stuff happening. This is the second book in the series, so I can't really tell you what happens, but I did enjoy this one. I didn't like it as much as the first book. There wasn't a whole lot of super important plot. Like, it felt like all the big things that happened in this book would have been small things if it was the first book. I really do think that this book could have just been combined with the third book. This is a 4-book series. I've only read books 1 and 2, so I can't really say that for sure because I don't know what happens in book 3, but this felt like a filler book to lead up to the conclusion of the whole story, and then there's a whole nother book. There's 4. So I'm like very confused. Like, I thought this book was kind of unnecessary. It could have just been combined with book 3 and made into a trilogy. The next book I listened to was Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. This is a middle grade children's story about, well, it's a retelling of Cinderella. And I have watched the movie and I thought the movie was really fun. I've watched it a couple times and I've been wanting to read this one ever since I watched the movie and I just never did, but then I randomly decided to read it. I mean, I did listen to it on audiobook, but you know, same thing. I really liked it. It was cute. I mean, it didn't blow me away or anything. It was very different from the movie, like very different from the movie, and so I was kind of like pleasantly surprised because I didn't know everything that was gonna happen because I had watched the movie. Like, I thought that it would just kind of like bore me because I knew everything that was gonna happen, but it didn't, because it is very different from the movie. But I did really enjoy it. The character is a lot younger, I think, in the book than in the movie. It definitely is for a younger audience, but I still really liked it. Next, I listened to The Sleeper in the Spindle by Neil Gaiman. This is like a short story novella retelling of Sleeping Beauty. I really liked this. It didn't blow me away. I mean, it is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, so like the basic storyline is pretty much the same, although Neil Gaiman definitely made this its own thing. He was definitely original in the way he told this story, and things happened in this retelling that is completely different from the original story. The magic system wasn't very well explained, but I think that's Neil Gaiman's style, so I was kind of expecting that a little bit. And also, though, the characters, many of the characters were just kind of random. It was like, why are these people here? It's not really explained. And those were some of the only faults that I had with it. Like I said, it was pretty original, and I appreciated that aspect of it. Next, I listened to The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, and this was a weird one. It was weird, but it was good. I didn't really mind the weird aspect. Once again, it's Neil Gaiman, so he doesn't really explain his magic systems. It's just like kind of thrown at you and you just have to roll with it. Like, even if you don't understand, just roll with it, and you may figure it out, you may not. This one, basically, it's about a boy who meets this girl who lives down the street, and she calls the pond the ocean. She says she's like really old, and she remembers when her family came across the ocean back at like the beginning of time. Weird stuff like that. Most of it doesn't make sense. There's these evil creatures that they have to fight against, and there's just lots of weird magical stuff. It wasn't like super special, but I did enjoy it, and I will probably read more Neil Gaiman in the future. Next, I listened to Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. This is actually a graphic novel, and I listened to it on audiobook. I'm not really sure why I did that. It was kind of just on impulse. But I did really like it, and I liked it enough to continue on with the graphic novel series, and I will probably actually read the physical copies of the next installments. But I did actually enjoy listening to it on audiobook. Basically, this story is set in a world where people have superhuman-like abilities. There's the supervillains, the superheroes. The superheroes aren't all good, and the villains aren't all bad, and that's all I can really tell you. And finally, I read a physical copy of a book. I finished Dear Evan Hansen by a slew of authors. This is a book adaptation of the musical Dear Evan Hansen, and I liked it. I had a lot of issues with this book, mainly the main character, Evan Hansen. Basically, this story is about Evan pretending that he was a dead person's best friend to get attention. And I didn't like that because, one, that's not okay. Two, it's excused because he has anxiety. So I did think the anxiety rep was done fairly well. I didn't like how the anxiety was supposed to excuse his behavior. Having anxiety doesn't make you a bad person by any means, and this book kind of made it out to be that way. It was like, oh, he's making all these bad decisions, but it's okay because he has anxiety and he's lonely and he just wants friends. And I'm thinking to myself the whole time, like, this is not okay. No, that's not how anxiety works. Like, this guy is pretending that he was somebody's best friend who has since passed away just to get attention. And I didn't think that was okay. I did like the book though. Like I said, I definitely had issues with it, which really affected my enjoyment of the story. I have been reading this one for over 2 months. I got stuck in the middle of it and couldn't get past it. But then I finally picked it up again and I read the whole second half in one sitting. It was fine. It was good, I guess, but it wasn't the best book of the year by any means. Alright, those are all the books that I read in the month of December. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts were on them. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish content by me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!